Sonic X Shadow Generations and Knuckles. Sonic and Shadow Generations was revealed yesterday, and after all the hype, you know, after all, we haven't gotten a Shadow the Hedgehog game in like 15 or 17, I don't even know how many years it's been, 18 years at this point, and it looks like this alternate campaign is going to have a very Shadow-centric story, touching on his past, confronting the demons of his traumatic upbringings. But there's a problem though. After the honeymoon phase has been over, a lot of Sonic fans have been quick to point out some skepticism that they have about this game. I mean, come on now, it's the Sonic community on Twitter. Obviously, there is going to be controversy and discourse and debate surrounding this release. But is there some merit to this discussion? I want to kind of break all this down for you guys and explain to you where this comes from and what the detractors of Sonic X Shadow Generations are saying. So before we get into that, please subscribe to the channel with all notifications for daily Sonic videos. We post every single day here. I'll give you a second. And drop a comment down below. Let me know if anything in this video changes your thoughts on the discussion, what you have to say. Would really like to know what your thoughts are. So here's the big criticism of this game that a lot of people have had. Although we've only had very brief gameplay clips, a lot of people, and very credible people within the community, you know, people who mod the games, people who are familiar with coding, just like the deconstruction and the inside of Sonic games. What they're saying about this game and what some people on Twitter are saying is that this game looks eerily similar to a game like Sonic Forces or Sonic Frontiers. And the first thing I noticed when I looked at the trailer, I was like, yo, this looks very Frontiers-esque. Now, is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I mean, personally, I like Sonic Frontiers. I don't even hate Cyberspace. But when it's paired with Sonic Generations and you see how that game plays, some people are having some concern. Not saying it's me, but this is just what people are saying. Let me explain. One of the first things you'll notice in the trailer is the level design and also the way the homing attack functions. Also in the combat scene, you'll notice Shadow's jump ball, which is exactly like Sonic Forces and exactly like Sonic Frontiers. Clearly, this game is developed in Hedgehog Engine 2. It's a dead giveaway. Although, let's be clear here, the art style and art direction in this game looks absolutely incredible. I think it's a big step up from Sonic Frontiers when you look at this, but also, if you look at Shadow's boosting animation as well, this also looks extremely similar to Sonic Forces. When you think about a Sonic game with boosting gameplay in Hedgehog Engine 2, the only examples we could really go off of are Sonic Forces and Sonic Frontiers. It's very likely that the Shadow Generations game is going to play similar to one of those two games, whether it's Frontier Cyberspace or Sonic Forces boosting gameplay in general. So here's a tweet that kind of points out like how the physics might play in the game. So this is Beats. He's a big Sonic modder. He's pretty talented. He definitely knows what he's talking about. So I would definitely trust him on this one in terms of like what he's seeing or what his vision is. He says it's just Sonic reskinned as Shadow using cyberspace physics. You can notice it based off of him using the parry animation before homing attacking and his little air spin after a homing attack. Someone said, bro, he saw 5 seconds of Shadow boosting and running in a line and said Frontiers physics. And he said, yes, I can tell from 5 seconds. And he goes a little bit further and talks about some of the intricacies of it, like, and he also posted a video, so let me show that real quick. So if you look, it says a lot of people were saying, how can we tell it's Frontiers or cyberspace controls from 5 seconds? He says, so here's what I was saying earlier. The homing attack hit stun is the same as Frontier cyberspace. It is not just the same animation, but physics as well. He says, not saying they won't make additional changes, but he says, I hope they fix the janky slopes and air controls in cyberspace. So if you guys look right here, so these were the physics that he's talking about right here. And if you see, one of the worst parts about Sonic Frontiers homing attack is definitely that delay in between homing attacks. It's actually a little bit better in Forces, but you see the parallels right here. Now, obviously, this game is confirmed to be built in Hedgehog Engine 2, so this is basically built off of what Sonic Forces is and what Sonic Frontiers is. That much is definitely a fact. But yeah, there's definitely some sentiment that, I mean, it's clear that it's not going to be Sonic Generations just with Shadow in terms of the gameplay. You can even see tweets like this. It says, there's some concerns. Shadow stuff won't be Gens tier. Biggest thing Shadow Gens has to do is beat the Forces level design allegations because I kind of see it when staring at the trailer long enough. This is genuinely my biggest worry. I don't like Forces and I'm not a fan of a lot of cyberspace levels, so I don't want a reprise of the two for Shadow Gens. I can already expect a massive difference between the vanilla Sonic Generations and Shadow in terms of level design though. Someone said, oh, that's just Sonic Forces Shadow in cyberspace with the toilet SpongeBob emoji. So that's what the allegations are. That's why people on Sonic Twitter are mad at each other. They're basically accusing this game of having extremely similar DNA to Sonic Forces and to some extent Sonic Frontiers because those games are built off of the same engine. And people, you know, Sonic fans, I guess we can never have something good, but people are definitely mad at each other. But is this all true? I mean, we're gonna have to do a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the level design. Obviously, the first thing you'll notice when you're watching this trailer is definitely you get a small glimpse at the level design. So if you look over here, here's one thing that the detractors of the game will notice. They see two flat hallway-like platforms right here. And then it quickly drops into like this part of the level design here, which looks very similar and eerily close to Sonic Sonic Forces as well. Although one thing I would like to point out though, if you're looking really close at it, maybe to kind of beat those allegations, if you look at those gun crates right there and then the subsequent springs that follow it, that is a clear indication of an alternative path. I think at least it leads into like maybe a collectible or something, but it looks like there may be different ways to progress through these levels. I mean, this is a very short platforming section, but this right here has people concerned and thinking that it's Sonic Forces-esque. Here's my counter argument to that though. I mean, look what you got right here. I mean, obviously there's a lot more going on here and it definitely looks a little bit more visually pleasing, but this is the same type of section that you have in Generations, similar to the Shadow Generations thing. Like you have one platform here, you go over here, boom, then you're back on your way. I mean, no one really saw much of the level design. It can clearly like transition to something as cool as this, you know what I'm saying? So I would say pump the brakes on that. So the biggest concern though is the controls and the physics. So let's do a little bit of a deeper dive into that. Not to beat a dead horse with Sonic Forces, but the physics are just feel very inconsistent in this game. Like when I'm jumping, like the jumping just feels really like, doesn't feel like there's a lot of weight to it. The air boost is kind of cool in this game. Like it gives a similar vibe to Frontiers, but I feel like it's a little bit out of control and not as precise. Like back to the point about the jumping, like I feel like he just like jumps up, but then he plops down like really fast. I feel like I fall a lot in the platforms in this game because I can never really predict where I'm going to go with the jumps. It's very inconsistent. It's like the gravity is a little bit too heavy. The air boost is very cool in this game. Like I always enjoyed the air boost, but also at the same time, it's really hard to get precise platforming because you never really know where exactly you're going to jump. Whereas in Sonic Frontiers, I feel like I know exactly where I'm going to land, where I'm going to jump whenever I do it. So I feel like there's an improvement with respect to that. So I don't think it's going to play just like Forces. If anything, it's going to be more similar to Sonic Frontiers Cyberspace. So you guys get it. I mean, the Forces physics aren't, you know, they're nothing to write home about. And also there's not really any momentum or anything like that. At least in Generations, there is true momentum. The game feels a lot different and the boosting gameplay doesn't feel as refined. It feels a little bit slower. Like when you boost in Sonic Generations, like you really feel it and you feel the sense of speed. And also he does go a lot faster. The jumps are a lot more precise. Like you know exactly where you're going to go. When you homing attack, when you jump, you never really get caught off guard by the controls when I'm playing this game. And also it controls better in the high speed environments. So one thing's for sure, it's definitely not going to play like Sonic Generations based off of the small snippet that I saw. Now, the question is this the end of the world? Well, here's the counter argument to people that are not as positive on the game. Here's my take. So Cyberspace is actually one of the things that people criticize in Frontiers a lot. As you can see, like the way he controls, he's definitely, at least it doesn't feel like he's moving as fast as Generations. This is me moving with the power boost, by the way. And also one thing you'll notice in Sonic Frontiers Cyberspace, if I can make it work right here, he has good tight turning speed when he's not boosting, which is better than Forces. When he goes into a full boost, you literally can't really change directions. The turning is horrible. He literally turns like a car. Compare that to Generations. Well, yes, it's a boosting game, so yeah, it's kind of hard to turn, but first of all, he turns a little bit better, but also the most important thing that we'll have to point out is his drifting. If you want to hit a turn, you just hit that drift and it also replenishes your boost. Like, it's just fun to use. So in some aspects, like in the high speed sections, this is what I mean. In high speed, it's definitely more fun to play Sonic Generations probably, but that's not always the case. In some of the 3D platforming in Sonic Frontiers, I would argue is actually better. But let's keep dissecting. There are a lot of good things to like about Cyberspace. Clearly, the first thing is rail launching. Hello, look at that. That is amazing, especially with the new physics sliders. The physics can be a little bit janky with like, all right, there's no momentum when you go down the slopes and stuff like that. The air physics can be pretty good though. If you turn up the sliders and turn down the jump deceleration, it starts to get really fun. And don't get me started on the spin dash. I don't know about you guys, but I absolutely love Sonic Frontier spin dash. I genuinely hope it returns. You can't tell me it's not fun to use the spin dash to just completely like fly over the level. I'm sorry. The spin dash is great. I don't think this is going to return in the Shadow game, but something like that actually makes Cyberspace good in my opinion. So that's something that this game definitely has over Generations in my opinion. There's definitely fun to be had in Cyberspace, but here's where it really shines. And that's in the 2D platforming. Platforming in Cyberspace, in my opinion, is better. Here's what I mean. I hate the 2D sections in Generations. Just look at this sequence right here that's going to help demonstrate this. Look at this. So look, the addition of the bounce attack plus the air bounce. Look at that. Boom. Look how much easier that platforming section was and just how much more satisfying it felt. And one thing that you'll notice if you look right here, what I did previously, you can see that I can actually change direction mid-air while boosting. Look at this section right here. This is definitely the best example. You can't even do this in Generations. You can only boost in one direction in mid-air. And this definitely makes Sonic Frontiers better with respect to that type of platforming. Just that level of air precision and correction makes a big difference. The 2D levels in Cyberspace are actually bearable, whereas in Generations, it feels like a clunky mess and it's just boring. I don't like it. Look at this right here. Boom. Bounce, boom, bounce, boom, bounce, boom. Like, it's just fun. Bounce, boom, bounce, boom, bounce, boom. I just love that so much. Now, compare that section to a similar section in Oh, look at that spin dash, by the way. But yeah, compared to a similar section in Generations, I feel like the platforming, especially in 2D, is definitely not as good as Sonic Frontier Cyberspace. That is the hill I'm willing to die on. Like, look at this part right here. I have to slowly wait. And for these little things that are moving here, I have to slowly do this. I have to go up, and I have to clunkily platform with my singular jump, not even a double jump, and then I can finally get through the section. I like Generations. Obviously, it's one of the best Sonic games ever, but when I look at the platforming of the game, I would say that, especially in those 2D sections, I like how Sonic Frontier Cyberspace does it better, just straight up. This might be a controversial take. I don't know. Here we go. Here's a slow Generations clunky platforming. Like, look at this, bro. This is just like, oh my goodness. Like, I don't have the double jump. I don't have the bounce. I don't got anything that I want. Look at this. I can't even, if I had the bounce right now and the air boost that I had in Frontiers, I would have already cooked this section right here, but I'm just like, la, 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 jumping around. Like, there's certain things that, whether you want to believe it or not, Frontiers does better than Generations. I don't care, all right? Doesn't excuse the total jank of Frontiers, but here's also another good example of like a really good level that when you play this part in Sonic Unleashed, like this is from Dragon Road right here. This part is way more fun to play in Sonic Frontiers. Exhibit A, we have double jump right here. We have the bounce attack to give us some height, and then we have the air boost, which also gives us some extra height. So now let's put it to the test. Trying to give you guys as many gameplay examples as possible to illustrate my point. So look at this. Boom, bounce, boom, bounce, boom. Look at this. Like the way we can just skip through this part, like it's actually kind of fun to platform here. Whereas when you play this part in Unleashed, this type of platforming doesn't work in a game like Unleashed and Generations. But in Frontiers, the additional moves allow you to get that little extra height in those jumps. With the bounce, you got the double jump. Like it just works. And again, the air boost is in control. You have pretty solid air controls, although there's one thing I will argue. When you try to jump in midair, it's really hard to change directions. Now, this is something that you don't really see in Generations that well either, but I mean, in Frontiers, it's definitely not good. Like, trying to change direction, if you try to do a full 360, you have to do a full turning motion, but you have pretty precise air controls or correction with that air boost. So yeah, while you're in those high-speed situations, it definitely feels better to play Sonic Generations. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. It feels a lot more polished. It's definitely a much more refined experience in Sonic Frontiers. And while I'm hating on the 2D sections of Generations, it's not always all bad. Exhibit A, I think my favorite 2D section in this game is probably Green Hill. Like, this 2D section in Green Hill has a lot more of like reactive platforming, which is a lot more similar to the philosophy of Sonic Unleashed. Like, there's definitely good 2D platforming sections in this game, but there's also the clunky ones, similar to Chemical Plant, similar to Crisis City. So maybe the perfect balance would be somewhere in the middle, right? It would be something like having some of those tighter platforming controls and abilities that you have in Frontiers, mixed in with the better 3D linear speed sections in Sonic Generations. The point I'm trying to make is if the game has more similar DNA to Sonic Frontiers, it's not the end of the world, because there are some sections in Sonic Frontiers Cyberspace which I think are a little bit stronger. What I would like for it to do is have the level of polish that Generations has, though. That's definitely for sure. And I definitely would like it to have similar level design to Sonic Generations as well, because while we only saw 5 seconds, so it's really hard to make a judgment, but that's what people are saying. And here's an example of that. So the major concern that people have is, why doesn't it play like Sonic Generations if it's a Sonic Generations remaster, or at least that's what the game is packaged with, and why does it look a little bit more Forces-esque? And there's one other section where you'll see that, obviously with the boosting section, and then this straight line right here. I mean, what do we see right here? It could be a boss section because you see the Black Doom guy right here. Maybe you're fighting him, but also, I mean, just look at this straight line right here. Sonic fans, they don't like to see straight lines because it gives them memories of Forces. So that's one thing that I hope that the game nails down, is the level design. The level design needs to match the quality of Sonic Generations, or at least I hope they can. I mean, one good thing about the game for sure, no matter what side of the fence you're on, we're getting a nice remaster of Sonic Generations. It's going to be on all platforms. There's no way that this isn't just like an absolute W. The shadow content's just kind of extra, you know, but there's a lot of heated discussion on Twitter. You'll probably see it in the coming days on YouTube and more as time goes on. But those are the things that they're going to need to address. We want the game to control well. We want it to be a nice blend of Generations with some of those extra platforming abilities of Frontiers, in my opinion at least. My take on the game is I'm extremely optimistic, and I think most people should be too. And just keep in mind, we literally saw 5 seconds of gameplay. I mean, you really can't judge an entire game off of seeing 5 seconds. I did want to highlight what people were saying, like kind of like what the other side was saying, just because I want to inform you guys and kind of hear your opinions. But like I said, I'm optimistic about the game. I'm not worried. I'm extremely excited, and I'm extremely happy that we are getting this shadow content. It feels like we're going to get some redemption for our boy, who was done kind of dirty with Shadow the Hedgehog because the game performed so poorly. The game looks absolutely incredible in terms of the visual department. I think it'll be good, man. I'm really excited. So let me know what you guys think about it. But that is the drama with the new Shadow game.